There's so much passion in this place. There's so much beauty. There's so much pain. It's dark, it's light. You know, there's a lot of places that people don't fight for what they believe in. People around here don't stand for that.
This is my neighborhood. This is my fucking little castle right here. Every time I come here, I know everybody that's here. Everyone says what's up, everyone's friends.
We showed up to this, you know, where it's still, where the debris meets the sea.
Venice Beach has always been about a community of artists and kind of like a big melting pot.
There's nowhere else like this. This town is so alive 24 hours a day.
We don't slack off. We don't make excuses. You could have all the tricks in the world, but if you don't do them with style, it's just boring. We don't do boring. This is Venice.
Skateboarding is looked at as a toy for your kid. No, this is something we live, we breathe, and we're gonna do something dangerous with it.
You know Abbott Kenny, that guy that started Venice? To do this wonderland like Venice, this Venice, Italy type of look with the canals.
Abbott called it his Venice of America, a place for people to come down, enjoy the beach, the boardwalk, and see a show. Most of the places he built are gone now, but the stories about Abbott Kinney still live on, because the Venice skaters are a lot like Abbott. They're following their dreams, doing something new, even if it is a little dangerous.
Without the permits or I'd say the okay from the city of Los Angeles, he just started building it, and this community started up here. At one point, I heard and read that the city came actually down here with bulldozers to tear down some of the piers and stuff they were building. All the community people got in front of those bulldozers and said, no, you're not, and stopped them.
When Abbott Kinney did it, it was rich. Depression hit, it went ghetto. The war came. The 50s, it was rich again. The 60s came around, it was poor again. 70s, it was poor.
Even though Venice was a ghetto at the time, it felt like more of a family community because everybody was poor. There was no like class division. It was like you had your poor white family, you had your poor black family, you had your poor Mexican family, and everybody knew each other and everybody knew each other's kids.
We all lived together, you know, Crips, Bloods, SAs, skateboarders. We were all considered family to each other.
And in our group, it was integrated. We didn't care, you know? It's like we hung out with everyone. Didn't matter. So, and it was the skateboarding that brought us together.
Story goes, there was a few of the guys sitting out there and they were commenting how the town has really gone to crap. And one of the old Z-boys commented, yeah, this town ain't fit for a dog. And then as they were saying that, one of those guys go, yeah, this is a dog town.
You could probably make an argument that someplace in this general vicinity, skateboarding as an activity originated and was largely defined.
Santa Monica, Malibu, Venice, this is the area where skateboarding started. All the best skaters come out of here, and people might have been doing things other places, but they definitely weren't getting the coverage, and they weren't as gnarly as people were down here.
In 1972, Skip Emblem and Jeff Ho opened the Zephyr Surf Shop in Santa Monica. The Zephyr skateboard team, also known as the Z-Boys, was born.
It's like there was a chain of command, you know. Skip Emblem, Nathan Pratt, Jeff Ho, Stesic. You know, those dudes were like the fathers of the neighborhood. And then Jay Adams, Elva, all those homies, they were like the sons of Dogtown. And then we from the 80s, like one time Jay told me, he goes, you guys are like the bad stepsons. Because we were raising hell on this beach.
Right on! It feels great! Right on! Street jacket! Street jacket! Street jacket!
The realistic boundaries of what the mythical Dogtown is, basically straddles both Venice and Santa Monica. And half the guys on the original Zephyr team were from Venice, and half of them were from Santa Monica.
And we became, the first group of super skaters, in the world. And Tony and Jay and everybody showed that, we can invent a new way of skateboarding and can do something of our own.
Jay Adams, Tony Alva, all them grew up watching surfers, and they thought they were surfing on the sidewalk. So when they went in the pool, they were surfing, grinding, and carving.
We used to sit at the bottom of the hill watching Jay Adams and all those dudes and Tony Alva bombing the hills down my street. Little did we know, what legend we were watching.
Dogtown, when I grew up in the 70s, was one of the most influential areas in the whole world. And to see what those guys were doing of radical skateboarding, it influenced us like, that is skateboarding. We want to ride pools, we want to go rip, we want to have that lifestyle of surfing, skating, just living it up, just being a teenager, just loving your life.
Kids who are born straight from a Dogtown boy is an automatic Dogtown boy. If I roll by you and I go, hey, what's up, homie, you're a Dogtown boy, that's a freaking honor, man. It's the equivalent of being like some senator or something dumb around here it is. And if you're considered a Dogtown boy, you made it.
I've seen gangbangers start to skateboard and give up gangbanging for skateboarding.
When your house is falling apart and your mom and dad, are arguing all the time, the only place I would feel is comfortable in the water or going to a skateboard bank.
I believe it was like in between 1970 and 71. My brothers and my cousins, they weren't the nicest people sometimes, and I guess they were out there doing their thing. And I guess one of them stole a car, and in that back seat was a skateboard. So when they got back to the house, they were like, hey, you want this? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I started skating with it, and was really stoked. I really liked it. I was like, wow, this is fun.
Me and Jesse, we grew up together in Venice, and our older brothers were in the same gang. And in order for us to stay away from that scene, we started skateboarding and hung around the beach.
From elementary school, that's all you were brought up around was Dogtown and skating and surfing, and back your neighborhood up. That's just the way it was.
We both come from dysfunctional families. Jesse, I would say, had it a little tougher than me. My mother passed away when I was 12, and I never had my dad around. So I was on my own with no parents at 12 already. Jesse had to deal with his father and his mother still, and there was issues with his siblings and whatever.
I got two blood brothers from the same mother and father, Monty and Albert. Albert's passed away. I got another brother, Monty. He's on vacation for about another 3 months, but he'll be back.
First time I met Jesse Martinez, I thought he was just some little gangbanger because I grew up hanging out with his older brother. He was one of the shot callers of the neighborhood.
One thing I have learned from growing up in a gang environment my whole entire life, you grow up in a house full of gang members and you live in a ganged out neighborhood, there's a dang good chance you're gonna become a gang member. I'm one of the fortunate, I was asked to be in the gang when I was younger, and I said no, and somebody said, then go skate, white boy, leave. And I did.
In the summer of 1978, a businessman named Dennis Ogden built a skate park in Marina del Rey, California. The marina became a training ground for the next generation of world-class skateboarders, such as Pat Noho, Eric Dressen, and Christian Hosoi.
When Marina Skate Park opened, I was probably like 10 years old. I remember me and my buddy Christian went there. We got exposed to a lot of heavyweight guys, all the former Z-Boys, Dogtown team.
Growing up in Venice Beach, skating down to the beach at 9, 10 years old, Then to see Marina Del Rey skate park built in 1978 and go, wow, look at this in our own backyard.
We were looking to do a skate park in this area because it was such a hotbed of skating, just like Venice still is these days, and in those days it was Dogtown skaters, and the Zephyr team were the most well-known skaters in the world.
A lot of those guys were great mentors, you know. On the outside they look radical and intimidating, but really they were super cool. They were my big brothers, they raised me.
Initially when we first opened it was just packed every day, and near the end in the last year or so, it seemed like there was more like 50 skaters.
Nobody wants to pay to go skateboard a place, and that's one thing that kind of ruined it. When you skateboard every day and you skateboard out your life, you know, it gets to be quite an expense.
When the Marina skate park closed down, the insurance on the skate parks went under. So that's why all the parks started closing.
Once they closed all those parks down, there was really nowhere to go.
So the only way to skate some kind of transition was to build your own ramps.
Venice is such a cool scene, especially back then in the 80s. It wasn't such a tourist trap as it is now. It was this eclectic mix of different types of people, different culture, you know, skateboarding, roller skating, just all these crazy worlds all coming together.
The 80s really defined the do-it-yourself, individual punk rock attitude that was fueled by the music, that was fueled by the culture, the lifestyle, and at the same time respected by the traditions of the guys who did it before us.
When we were in high school, Jesse would come to Venice High, be barefooted, and just skate his ass off on the Venice High banks. And I was like, Jesse, what are you doing, you know? Jesse would be like, I'm gonna be a pro skater. And I was like, there's no fucking money in that. And he was like, I don't care, I'm gonna be a pro skater.
Back in the early 80s, I was in Simi Valley visiting my grandma. Met these biker guys who had a ramp. He said, I go, wow, bitch, a ramp. I really liked it and I had fun on it. I go, can I buy it from you or trade it from you? And he goes, no. Well, back then I was kind of shady. So I got up at 3 in the morning, got his ramp, put it on my skateboard, rolled it home, called my buddy from Venice to come and get me, came and got me with his truck, and we threw the ramp on the ground out there and it all began.
I was skating a lot with Christian and Soy. We were skating a lot of vert, you know, whatever we could find, pools, skating the skate parks. And then one day he's like, dude, we gotta go down to the beach. They have a jump ramp. It was cool because you'd go there and there'd be 1,000 people watching you. So one little jump ramp and we'd be all hitting and there'd be thousands of people there, and it was cool.
I was going down the street one day and Jay Adams passed me. And he stopped and he goes, hey, you wanna go skate? And I was like, of course, it's frickin' Jay Adams. So he took me skating that day. I was fully inspired.
You know, I was going down to like Playa del Rey. We had a couple backyard ramps down there at the beach, and I took Jesse with me. And Jesse was just 100% skateboarder at the time, just so into it and totally just aggro on skating.
I'm no pro, I just skate. I don't know how I get the money.
A couple days later, Jay Adams saw me down here and he goes, hey, you wanna ride? You wanna skate for Santa Monica Airlines? And I was like, whoa, really? So I said, yeah. And that was a complete turning point for my whole life.
In the 80s, professional skateboarding all of a sudden became really a viable job.
Between 19 and 21, I turned pro. I was old.
I first met Jesse right here on this beach with Jay Adams. He was riding the walls and doing hand plants before anyone I'd ever seen do that.
Jesse, Nodis, Christian Asoy, and a whole another handful of guys from Frisco to Diego started street skating.
Street skating is basically just grab your board, go out and do what you can where you can. It was a natural progression. It just grew out of, I want to do something different. I can do this, but I can do that. Now add this to that.
It wasn't like stop in one place and try and do one trick 25 times. It was just go out and hit everything along your way on the street. Grind a curb, hit a wall, you know, do a parking block, you know, kick flip something and keep going.
Street skating was like starting to, you know, come up and started to boom. You know, Jesse was like at the forefront.
He's the first guy I ever saw just like jam up walls and like he's like upside down on one hand, flipping the board around on his feet, and then let go of the board and then his feet are just flipping the board around and all this stuff. I'm like, is that where skateboarding is going?
Wally Holiday, he was like one of the few skate park designers back there with concrete. He was sitting there and he's struggling on transitions and how are they ever going to, he said, and then all of a sudden this kid comes out of nowhere, it's Jesse, just like goes straight up the wall, kick flips and comes down and skates off. And Wally was like, what do we need parks for? You know, it's like, what is this?
I looked at magazines. There wasn't a how to street skate issue, so I just skated and took my moves off of what they were doing and took it to the streets.
He was always doing something new, always challenging himself, and never satisfied with his abilities. He always wanted to improve his abilities and do something more.
The 80s, skateboarding was all about Venice. You know, we were in the magazines, we were the scene.
Later in the 80s, 85, 84, everybody started becoming these, you know, good amateur skateboarders. And you know, before you know it, 85, 86 ran around, everybody was full-blown skate, you know, pro, legend skaters now.
Jesse was exceptional. He had dominated the amateur status for 2 years. When Jesse became the hot commodity, Stacy came and picked up Jesse and said, I'm gonna give you a model. But I invested in all these other riders, and he had Bones Brigade and all that. And he put Jesse on Pal Peralta. He said, you don't get a model for 2 years. We'll start designing your stuff, but I'm not gonna put it out. He knew that if Jesse skated against those guys that he'd been promoting his company with, he would have won, beat all those guys in the street. So he kind of held him back.
You could be the baddest skateboarder in the world, but if you don't ride for a team that's gonna get you out there in touring, shaking hands, Pal just put my ass out there for weeks and months at a time touring all over the United States. There isn't a state or town I pretty much ain't been to.
Jesse was the hardest working skateboarder in the 80s. Jesse went on tour for 6 months. He would tell me stories where his ankles would be so swollen, he had to stick both of his ankles in a bucket of ice just to do a demo.
I was a demo machine. I lived and died for demos. I loved it. And I got paid. And Stacy, without him, I'd be half the so-called skateboarder I am today.
The Venice Pavilion was built in 1961 to be a community rec center. It fell into disrepair, closed in '84, but it was all the skaters had to keep skateboarding alive.
Our area, Marina Skate Park, that we all grew up around, was gone.
The older guys like Jay Adams and those guys were already skaters and well-known skateboarders. They would build ramps and stuff down at the pavilion.
Instead of the pools and copings of the Marina Skate Park, now the skaters used handmade ramps and the walls of the pavilion for street skating.
Everybody would go inside the pavilion because the cops couldn't find you in there. You could go behind these, they have these big fire pits and sit in there and sort of smoke some weed and hang out, do whatever you want.
I used to go down there and measure the walls and actually build ramps to fit the wall exactly perfect. We would skate it on the weekends, and then come Monday to skate or something, and the cops would be cutting up our ramps with chainsaws, and then we'd have to go steal some wood and build it.
We had like 10 different sites in the pavilion where we'd put these ramps up.
We turned the beach into a skate park.
It wasn't the cookie cutter perfect vert ramp, you know, you had to make do with what you had.
We all pushed each other to be the best that we could be.
We were pushing the envelope in street skating. We're being creative with the pavilion, with ramps and quarter pipes and wall rides and jump ramp to walls, and just really wanting to have a good time. I think that was our whole goal, was to have a good time with all of our friends down here at the beach, like one big, you know, family, and that's what skateboarding was all about.
There was Mexicans, there was black kids, there was white kids, and you know, everyone just kind of got along.
Hey, let's put him on the video. Why not?
People that remember that pavilion remember it with kind of rose-colored glasses. What they kind of forget about is the fact that nobody was cleaning the place. It wasn't just the skaters there. You had drug addicts there, you had homeless guys there, and the place really stank.
It was a real bad scene down here, but we didn't give a shit because we'd skate by. We knew the bums, but they looked out for us. They're like, hey, you know, if some older drunk came and fucked with us, they would be like, hey, don't fuck with them. Those are the bums. Those are the locals, you know. I didn't even recognize all the chaos. I was just having fun, and I was cool. But then we were protected by our older brothers and our friends' older brothers and family. You know what I mean?
Growing up in a tough environment makes you learn how to stand up for what you believe in and demand respect.
I think that we were just so close to all the old Z-boys in the 70s that we couldn't help but know where we came from and be proud of it and willing to almost do anything to protect that neighborhood and the word Dogtown. Bike companies came down, did a contest.
When they had the contest and all the bikers came out, it was too much for Jess. He called up Stoney, and that just started a whole mess, dude.
It was like throwing a match on gas. It turned into a huge fight. It was bad.
A lot of bikes got stolen that day. Like 7 or 10 bikes got taken.
We actually did more harm to ourselves than we did to them. We just reinforced the way they looked at us. Thugs, you know, hard-headed kids, troublemakers.
After the BMX rumble, the city clamped down on skateboarders and their activities at the beach.
When I got back into town, some of the local guys were like, hey man, they're building a ramp over at Joff's house. And I was like, what, no way. So shot over there as quick as I could.
My parents had a real big front yard, and I kind of was in a lot of trouble at the time, so they figured, fuck, we might as well keep them here.
Joff Drinkwater, when I was a little kid, he built a ramp in his backyard. It was called the VSA ramp. That's where the VSA came from originally. It was the Venice Skate Association. They all have membership cards. You had to be down to be able to skate.
My friend Jimbo's the one who started VSA. I mean, I remember them saying VSA, and he spray painted it on, my friend Joff Drinkwater had built a half pipe in front of his house.
I'd heard about it, I found the spot, and I walked in there, and it was just the heavy scene going on. All these gnarly suicidal punk rockers were there. There were some Crips there were some essays there. What other skate scene has that, you know what I mean? The multicultural, like gangsters, and then skateboarders. And not only were the skateboarders hard, they were just as hard as the gangsters, you know what I mean? That's what it was about.
There was other kids that were privileged in Mar Vista and other kids in Westchester and Santa Monica that had ramps. But when Venice came, we'd go to skate, they're like, nah, those kids aren't coming in the yard. Because we were rowdy. You could tell we were like wild Mustangs out of the fucking corral, right? When you let us out, we're like, rah, we're loud. Parents are like, no, they're not coming in. So we had our own ramp at that point, so we did the same thing. We're like, no, if you're not VSA, you're not skating.
Unfortunately, the PAL Tour came around I guess, round 2, and I got sent back out on the road. Came back 2 or 3 months later, and then it was gone.
The early 90s, skateboarding died out in Venice. There was nobody coming out of Venice that was skating. Everything kind of just drifted and got distant from this area.
The rollerbladers showed up around 1990 and started thinking the spot right here by the wall was their spot all of a sudden.
Rollerbladers were so organized because they had big corporate companies behind them.
From 1994 to 1998, we were strictly inline skating, street and vert.
There's just bad blood between rollerbladers and skateboarders. We're led by Jesse. The mess.
Jesse Martinez, who I had many altercations with.
It's not that we didn't like you. We just didn't like you where you were taking over.
This was their territory.
The rollerbladers were outnumbering everybody, and they brought down a jump ramp. Well, they decided it was their beach, and they weren't gonna let us skate it.
We're hopping over the fence, I'm kicking them out.
There was only a couple of us, and guess who came riding in?
You know, Jesse felt that, you know, he had allegiance and had to protect, you know, his group.
So Jesse made a swift point with his palm into a professional rollerblader's face and cemented the point into his cheek. That you don't come in here with a pompous attitude. You show respect, you get respect.
Nothing meant more than backing up the neighborhood. And then I finally realized that, in a way, you're not backing the neighborhood up, you're hurting the neighborhood.
There's Jerry. Doesn't know he's gonna get picked up for fucking destroying the fucking lawn. Gonna get arrested in about 10 minutes.
He's just another example of all the guys in Venice. Anything you want to do, you can do.
We all liked him, you know, because he was just so odd. And then he started pulling people out of the, we're drowning out of the water over here a few feet. And then he was heroic.
I know he's a better surfer than he is a skater. And more importantly, you know, he's an ex-lifeguard, CPR trained, and it's a hell of a lot more important than being a good surfer or skateboarder.
Yeah, he's kind of like an Energizer bunny. He just keeps going, Jerry. Jerry's got a lot of energy.
I found out about the demolition of the pavilion in 1988. For about 10 years, you know, when I'd come home, I would tell people, it's going to be torn down. Let's get involved and have a skate park built. And most people just tell me, you know, fuck you, Jerry Lewis, you don't know what you're talking about.
Every subculture has its kind of mecca, if you will, and the pit was mecca for skateboarding.
City government was really focused on what to do with the pavilion, how to repair the parts of Oceanfront Walk that were falling apart. It was a nightmare, let me tell you.
They're taking away like a landmark in skateboarding, whether they recognize that or not, the city or whoever.
This is our war, our stomping ground. And there's the people that want to tear it down right there.
Ending of a chapter in skateboard history.
Jerry saw this for a long time, and he went down there when it wasn't popular, and he did it when nobody cared about it, which you'd have to give him a lot of credit for it.
The RRM group had a questionnaire and a type of map. And the question was, what would you like to see here if you had your druzzer? So bam, I wrote skateboard park, and you've seen it where I drew, and I drew an anarchy sign. I kept the dream alive.
I got a call from Jerry Lewis. And he said, Melanie, I have a lot of stuff on my plate right now, and I need some help making sure that we get this park. That's how it started.
I think one thing I saw about Jerry is he didn't go away, and he believed in a dream, and he made me believe in him because I think Jerry didn't stop when everybody else thought that it was a good time to give up.
You know, you don't hold back. So he just carries on that tradition.
I recall we were actually out here, down here at Venice Beach, looking at some of the drawings,
and about 3 or 4 skateboarders came over and said, hey, where's ours? I mean, they made an immediately compelling case. We'd already gone out to bid, so the question became, how do we find a way to accommodate these guys?
Oh my God, is that going to be the skate park? Like, everybody kind of lost a little faith at that point, except for Jerry and Jesse.
So we thought we had done really, really good work by getting a small, admittedly a small skate park. It was only at the grand opening of the whole shebang that a few skaters said, you know, this isn't really going to cut it.
That's when I officially formed the VSCA as a viable, legitimate advocate for skateboarding. In 2000, I met a dear woman named, her name is Heidi Lemon.
I had a booth at ASR, we're a nonprofit, you know, to help people get skate parks. So I was manning the booth, and this guy comes wandering down, and it turned out to be Jerry Lewis, and he said, I'm trying to get a skate park in Venice, and I was like, me too.
And her organization, Skate Parks Association USA, was just a perfect fit.
I think Jerry Lewis, who took the VSA and actually made it an association.
Heidi, myself, and Scott Brown filed business papers. So the city officially recognized us as the group wanting a skate park.
And then because Jerry had the skate shop here and he was a longtime Venice skater, he knew everybody. So when we came together with what I was working on politically, and then it's like he had a powerhouse of skaters, he knew everybody.
We met, he had contests and fundraisers to you know, get money and everything, and kind of rallied around that.
Sign our petition to have a skate park built in beautiful Venice Beach. Thank you very much.
It's good, because it's good for kids. Give them more things to do. Better than walking around, they can hang out at the park.
For years and years, people have been skating here. We came all this way from the East Coast, been living here for like 3 years, and now they tore everything down. There's nothing here but skaters left. If we ain't got nothing to skate, we're just gonna start doing other shit, and y'all don't want that.
So it's about time skateboarders got together and built a park. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up and showing their support for skateboarding in Venice.
You know, the problem that happened down here between the skaters and the bikers back then, I thought that pretty much killed it for all time.
Any development that happens in this part of Venice is subject not only to all the city process, but the Coastal Commission also has to approve everything.
We really thought it was just the end of the road for us.
There'd be a lot of meetings. I recall one of the meetings being in San Diego. So Jerry Lewis, Todd Gessler, he had a van, and just stacked up everybody that was around to go, you know, represent Venice at this meeting to show that we had solidarity in more than just 2 or 3 guys. Here we are as a van, a bunch of us showing up and shocking them.
And we had strategies. We brought in a bunch of kids, you know, young kids, saying why they wanted a skate park. Because for one, you know, a bunch of old guys coming in saying we want a skate park wasn't going to do it.
And of course, it's a pretty motley crew of people, right? Got in there, and Jesse got up and spoke, and he's such a powerful speaker. And he's so Jesse, you know, everybody in there is so corporate, and, you know, Jesse's just this, you know, down and dirty skater from Venice, and he got up there and he talked.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jesse Martinez. I'm a lifelong resident, born and raised in Venice, and been skateboarding for 31 years in that neighborhood. And, well, sometimes people lose sight of the skateboard. It's not just a toy. Most of my family are all gang members in Venice, but just because I found a skateboard when I was 5, it broke the cycle of that gang life that I was heading toward. So I wanted to skateboard, and now my son is a skateboarder too. But it's, you know, sometimes it leads to so much better things than me becoming a gang member. Instead, I became a professional skateboarder for 8 years. And now my son is, and I'm sure his son will be too now. Unlike my older brother who is serving time in prison, his son is in prison too. And I kind of feel I failed him by not giving him a skateboard when he was younger, to pull him away from that general direction. And I'd rather choose being a skateboarder than a gang member any day of the week. That's basically it. Thank you.
And they applauded him and everything, and I think it was unanimous that they voted in favor of the skate park.
Originally, our idea was to build a skate rink and a skateboard park. And originally, I was going to come here today and try to object to some of Chuck Posner's staff recommendations to the conditions. I've actually had to change of heart. I think he made a lot of good points, and I think that we only have room for one facility down there. And the choice is a very simple one and a very easy one for us, the city government of LA. And that's the side of the skateboarders, many of whom are here today. They are the heart and the soul of Venice Beach. They're the next generation of what Venice is about. We really want to be able to provide a place that welcomes them and acknowledges their place as part of Venice.
Any objection to a unanimous roll call? Seeing none, the project is approved.
We died.
Yes, we're in
Skate park.
Triumph. Yeah! Venice skate park! That was beautiful.
We just fucking made history. Like, sweet. Venice has never had a skateboard park ever. They made shit, dude. Like, we grew up watching that shit in magazines and videos, and now we're responsible for fucking making a skate park that's gonna change lives, dude.
We were so naive back then and young that once it was approved, everyone thought that it would just handle itself and get done, I guess. They just, like, I guess, in essence, appeased us by approving it and hoped we'd go away.
It was certainly a lot of bureaucratic resistance. There's always bureaucratic resistance to a new idea.
The city of Los Angeles was really difficult to work with on this park.
It's all about politics.
In the meantime, there's over 20 skate parks built in Los Angeles that went in without any problems.
Mayor Reardon, when he was the mayor, came down here and went to one of the workshops planning the restoration of the beachfront. And then he came back from this workshop about a half hour later and said to me, "Ruth, your job is harder than mine."
I don't know that I've ever been to a meeting in Venice that didn't have some level of chaos. And the closer you get to the water, it seems to be the more chaotic the meetings get. So any meeting about anything down on Venice Beach was chaotic.
Everybody's screaming what they want, how the park should be.
There were some city people. There was a guy from the Kings hockey team that was there, and it was the funniest thing when he stood up and suggested that they build a roller rink for the rollerbladers and the skateboarders to do their thing in.
Part of the plan was to be this combination roller hockey rink and skate park. And at one point, the Kings were involved to pony up some dollars for that.
We kind of looked at each other like, who's going to stand up and answer this one? And it was only appropriate that Jesse stood up, raised his hand, and said, excuse me, but if you do that, there's going to be a lot of problems, and you're going to have fights, and you're going to have to deal with it. And it's not a very good idea.
They were trying to build a hockey rink, right? And we're like, we don't fucking play hockey. This is Venice, man.
Wintertime ice hockey, summertime roller hockey. And they were gonna fund it, and now it's gonna be shoved down our throats.
Eventually it died out. The community wasn't all that jazzed about it.
Pretty much so, we were kind of the core that just kept going to these endless city council meetings and getting like turned away and coming back.
The VSA pretty much pushed every step it took to get this park, from meetings to learning to lawyers to adapting to every new city guy we had to deal with for the last 23 years.
The money would come in for the park and then it would disappear. It would get sent somewhere else and the park wouldn't get built.
By the time we had agreed with them that what we needed was a planning group of skaters who would work with the city, that reapportionment hit and I got moved out to the valley, so I lost authority.
Who do we need to talk to at the city to get on our side, to give us the correct information to proceed forward to get a park built?
Just seemed, we were trying so hard for so long that, it just seemed like a hopeless case.
You have to be in the right place at the right time with the right combination of people and the right things happening. It's like, it's luck, right?
The real truth behind the whole thing is we really want to bottom line it, how that park got made. Without Bill Rosendahl, the park wouldn't exist.
Here we go!
At a certain point in my life, I figure I'm going to run for office and see if I can make a difference in the political process. And I got elected. Got sworn in July 1st of 2005. And as an elected official representing the West Side, the first thing I said is, where are my skateboard parks?
You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and if you have a kid at your home saying, you know, dude, I want a park, where's the park for me to skate? You know, Unkadunk, what are you doing? I think that was like our little magical factor that made the park happen right now.
He was a skateboarder, and he lives in my house with his father at this particular point in time. And there was no place to skateboard. So he built his own skateboard right on our street. He hammered things together and made this kinds of stuff and all kinds of things that they make in skateboard.
So every day we drag our ramps out from our yard and bring them out here into the street, and we'd set them all up right here in the street. And of course, this poor lady would get angry with us and come out and yell at us. And
one night I came home and the whole neighborhood was in an uproar. This is driving us nuts. How can this be? So then I said, oh, I'm going to find out what's going on. Why don't we have skateboard parks? And I found out there was one that had been worked on for 8 to 10 years in Venice, but it was languishing. And it was languishing because there wasn't the focus and the direction and the support given from the elected official, and they were out of money.
Councilmember Rosendahl's office and Mike Bonin elevated this project to, I believe, one of the highest priorities for the district to happen. And with that endorsement, it really picked up speed.
So I said, how much more money do you need? They said $2 million.
Now the Damson oil site actually had funds set aside for something to build here.
There used to be oil wells even where we are, so there's a source of funds from this oil well remediation fund that's only unique to Venice Beach. And the council office opened those funds up to provide some funding for this project.
Some money came from there, but I think they needed more money, and they said it came out of the general fund. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but that's what I've been told.
We have the Venice Property Surplus Fund, which comes from developers that put money in it for projects, and it was sitting there. So I took the $2 million, I gave it to the city, and I said, now, there's your money for the park, now stay focused and get it done.
It's one of the things in my life that's restored my, it's so corny, restored my belief in humanity.
The fun for me was grabbing skateboarders and saying, get in a room, figure out what you really want.
You ask 5 people what they want in a skate park, you get 10 non-negotiable answers.
Honestly, I think this park had 5 different plans, 5 different stages that it went to get to here.
Jesse really, I think, made a point of bringing in some of the heroes that came out of this neighborhood as far as professional skateboarding goes and really valued their opinions. And I think part of that makes it the unique park it is.
You can literally see how this park evolved from this little flow course, nothing, to what it is now.
And in fact, toward the end of the design, Jesse had a really good idea to try and rework it to get the snake run in that's in there now.
You know, park designs depend on what's going on within the sport. At the moment the park is designed, and the designs are unique to the communities in which they're being built for.
As far as transition and kind of like what this neighborhood's known for, style and all that, I mean, as far as the way it's laid out, it's a completely unique oasis unlike any other.
Zach Wormhouse, you know, those guys, incredible guys in California skate parks, and definitely bent over backwards, you know, to change the small things that we requested literally to the last minute of building this park.
Construction for the park began on December 31st, 2008.
Hey, Bill. All right.
I'm Bill Rosendahl, the council member that represents the 11th district. Just remember, when it's up and running and you guys are playing there, that you started it by the first shovel. This is a wonderful moment that we will finally have a skateboard park for the kids at Venice Beach.
I hear the chainsaw starting up, and I start watching these guys chop down the palm trees at this lined out perimeter they had. And I thought to myself, is it really true? Are they really starting to clear the way for a skate park in Venice?
And then, like, when they started digging, like, that was a big surprise. I couldn't believe it.
Hey! Hi, Jim! Look, they're tearing it all out.
Once the concrete, you know, the rebar, and it started digging, it was an incredible feeling to know that a decade of pushing to get it built is really gonna happen. And I'm not too old to skateboard still. I'm gonna get a chance to enjoy it myself, you know, and Jess as well.
This is a reflection of us. This is what we were able to accomplish working our way through a system. Not just getting this thing built, but proving that you can go through channels and do things in a correct manner. If you're dogmatic enough, you can complete something. So as a community, it should be kind of like a shining touchstone for people to be able to hold on to. Like this was something that they did.
I believe this is going to be the one part of the snake run coming around. I'm not positive, and that's the smaller bowl. And then over there's the bigger bowl, which I am sure of.
It's interesting, this used to be a tainted oil field and is a property that, you know, when it was a city yard and since, they've never been able to figure out what to do with it. So this is a productive use of this property, which is extraordinarily encouraging.
The park was finished in September and opened October 3rd, 2009.
The most expensive skate park in the world, $3.5 million. A lot of pride to be shown off that, you know, we can do this. You know, just a bunch of ragtag skateboarders. Lo and behold, we got it done.
It's really a tribute to, not so much to government, as to the dedication of people in the skating community who are willing to work with government.
The fact that we have a skate park that is right on the beach looking at the ocean that we play in every day is beyond me. It's just the most special thing.
We built the biggest and the best at Venice Beach. And that's happening. It's probably the biggest attraction at Venice Beach now in the last 10 years.
For me, it's like comes full circle.
Finally, we got a park, and I'm stoked.
When I go look at that park right now, when I went past there, I wanted to pinch myself. Like, is this really happening? It was almost like just some crazy dream that you had.
When you go out there, you literally get chills because you know what went down in this neighborhood for the last 30 years wasn't happening like that anywhere else in the world.
Opening day was just incredible. There's a lot of, you know, pride.
Told me a long fight was a good fight. For a long time, I thought that was, you know, I thought I really knew the meaning of that sentence. I'd say until last night when I was standing out here by myself looking at the park done. I was quite amazed and shocked on it being right in front of me, finished, and the next day has come that this park could be open. And at that moment, I truly understood what that guy told me. The long fight was a good fight. It made me extremely proud to stand there and look out. Go, yeah, we did it. This didn't begin here or in 1986. This began in the early 70s.
That's right.
When our Dogtown fathers, Jeff Ho, Stesic, Nathan Pratt. Let's not forget about the Zephyr team. They're the ones who made up this style of skating and the attitude to go along with it. And let's not forget the most important thing they created. They created this thing called tradition. And this tradition is Dogtown. And this park behind us is a testament to what they started.
Yeah.
And this tradition will carry on to the true fourth generation of Dogtown. As I step down from this competitive sport, we'll keep this park clean, safe, where all the kids can have somewhere to come and not have to deal with all the BS. For the next 50 years, Dogtown.
My favorite thing of the day was Ray Flores showed up in a white shirt and a tie. I've never seen him in anything other than a t-shirt.
It's not even from a thrift store.
And I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "This is what it means to me. This is how important it is to me."
Time to get hitch, made players, so I switch names. Swerving in the Burberry, damn it, watch me switch lanes. And all in all, they sitting on 26 mains. But all in all, that Bacardi got me hit, man. I got the product if your fiends need a hit, man. Game need me like the bike need a kickstand. Just clap.
The street section, I've already seen some amazing skateboarding go down there. These kids have a place to go and rip any time of the day.
Jesse came up with the idea for the snake run when we were designing it. I personally thought it was going to be an old, thing. This is what we had in the 70s. So I knew all the old guys would like it. I didn't think any of the kids were going to care for it. So I was kind of against it. I didn't think it was going to be great. I was wrong. I was totally wrong. It is by far the most popular part of the skate park.
The Venice Skate Park snake run is one legitimate snake run, and that's something that was really missing in LA County. But that thing is special. That thing is special, and it rides like a true snake run. But at the same time, you have this whole bowl, this kind of like miniature pool with metal coping at the end. So you have this basin to go do your rip shred, but you have this whole trail to set you up for speed beyond belief. Like, you can go 100 miles in there if you know how to skateboard well.
It just fools you into thinking that you can go as fast as you want. And then next thing you know, it rears its head out and crushes you into one of the walls.
Small bowl is a sleeper. I call that the sleeper bowl because looking at the layout and watching the building process, I thought that might be the worst thing in the park. But in actuality, it's one of the coolest things to skate.
I can tell from a lot of guys that I see skate that on a regular basis. It has a lot of good flow to it. It's really fun. The extension on it's great. The roll-in's great. You see a lot of good skating going down in that thing.
The big bowl is pretty special. I think it's a throwback to the classic bowls of the 70s from the skate parks back then. There's no waterfall. There's a slight gradation on one of the shallower drop-ins. I think it's got girth, which is a good thing. You can half pipe that bowl, you can carve it. Whatever you got for that bowl, you can do in there. I think it's got a lot of big transition. I'm glad that it's not below 8 feet. I'm glad that it's 9.5 feet. It's solid. It's a good staple for the young generation to learn how to ride the bowls the way the older generation has taught them.
One of the things I like about Venice is it's a new spot, and I'm really excited to go ride a new spot. Not only that, but a world-class spot, one that you can keep going back to and never get bored, and find new speed lines and ride with new people and just have a good time. And that's what skateboarding's about.
Got a permit? What's up, man?
Every day you're down here doing this?
7 days a week. Oh, son of a bitch. God, I hate these. Well, you know what? They didn't hit the park, but still, that is the park.
So you got to clean that off?
Yeah, right now.
Every day?
Every single day.
And every day, what's going on?
Every day there's bullshit. Graffiti, trash, hobos, bums, you name it. Every day. But it's nothing different. You know, it's just the beach. It's always been like this. You know, I knew it wasn't going to change because they put a skate park here. You know, this is going to stay the same. This is LA's backyard. You know, shit, you can't stop it. Once we got the park, the next day after the park opened, we went, you know, hey, nobody's here to clean it, so we just started cleaning it. You know, that's all to it. We just had to clean it. You know? Yeah, there we go. Unfortunately, I think I'm gonna have to bring the pressure washer off for this one. I'm sure when the kids who do this now, when they get older, they'll realize how stupid this shit is, you know? When they get in their 30s and they have kids and they have their own pad and someone tags on it and they have to go outside and fix their fence or, you know, get the shit off their car or something, they're gonna understand that, you know, I was a dumbass, you know, back then.
Right now, it's a little moist, but it's actually kind of sticky at this point. You know, Venice isn't known for having anything really nice for very long. If we had paint, it would be slick, and people would slide out. There's a park in Australia that is right on the beach. It's got graffiti on it, and we just had a pro come back from a contest over there, and he was like, it's a death trap. You know, it's just it's too slick.
We're proud of the Venice Skate Association for one reason and one reason only. We got this park made, and we're out here every day cleaning it.
I arrived here this morning at about 5 a.m. and close to 15, 20 tags were put in here. They were all definitely of poor quality. Some of the higher up graffiti artists had told me they consider what these guys do trash-feedy. Like always, we set everything in motion. I ran home, got on the phone, started making phone calls, started getting the gear together. And I wasn't really too worried about the troops because I knew they would come. As the day goes, more and more people would show up and start helping. And pretty much that's what happened. You know, we had guys who don't even help on a regular basis coming up asking, how can we help? What do you need? Now here it is, 6, 7 hours later, and we're like 25 minutes away from calling it done. And it sends a message too to them. You know, I'm pretty sure they think they were funny, whoever did that. Well, if you want to waste your paint, come in here and tag the whole park up. You know, as long as nobody catches you or nothing, go ahead. But guaranteed, we are going to show up that morning at 5, and we are going to clean it non-stop until all the graffiti's gone.
I'm Joe Conley, the Comedy Graffiti Gorilla. I've been removing graffiti and working with people in the graffiti art movement for about 20 years in the city of LA. You know, to have an area as big as this with only just a little bit of graffiti on garbage cans, it's a goddamn miracle. It's a miracle. It's somebody's paying attention.
Whatever happens at night happens. We just have to deal with it the next morning. We can remove the graffiti. You know, if we get it early enough, you know, we can keep the park clean no matter how dirty it gets, no matter how much coffee is spilt or drinks or beer in the morning or broken glass. It's not really even a neighborhood thing now, it's more like a skater thing. It has really taken on a life of its own, and I really appreciate everybody's effort to help because we could not do what we do without them.
Really, the VSA isn't just a few faces. There's numerous amounts of volunteers that we have that help here every day. They make up the VSA. It's about community, right?
You know, when I see new kids around here, I greet them. I welcome them to the park. I let them know if there's a problem. You come see me personally, and they're injured. I'm Johnny on the spot. I'm here, you know, most days.
Sometimes the little kids were just like, they just need a helmet. Yeah. You know they're gonna wear it, so we'll just give it to them.
Okay. He has a bigger hat size than his dad.
Does that feel weird?
It's just giving back to the kids, giving back to the community of Venice.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I'm doing it. And I also get to skate this place, too.
This was my opportunity to be a part of something that I believe in. It's good in cause. We care about the kids here. We get to give them a lot of guidance here, give them something positive to do in a positive environment.
Lance, Lauren, Primo, Blue, I mean, they're here giving their own free time. There's a table here to put your board and tighten your trucks up. There's tents here, there's first aid, and if anybody needs help, somebody gets hurt. I mean, what other skateboard park has that?
You know what? I don't.
The number one benefit is that when your kids are hanging out here, they're not hanging out on the street corner drinking a 40. That's a guarantee, because they're not doing that here. We don't allow people who are, drunk and stumbling off the boardwalk to come and hang out in the park.
You're on your way.
This is for skating. That's what this park is for, it's supposed to be a safe place.
The LAPD and the VSA have come a long way. There's every spring when they come in and introduce themselves, and they talk about what their goal is and their mission to the VSA and what they're doing out here. We have a new set of beach officers that are coming down here, and they come in and introduce themselves. I think the LAPD and the VSA have come a long way to work together and to tackle the issues that they have over there at the skate park.
The Venice Park is there's a little bit of, I don't want to say territorial, but I'm definitely local pride, because the kids that are coming up here and their parents that skated, they're really rippers. I think more pro skaters come out of here than anywhere. I'm used to seeing this level of skating. And it's like everybody I know can skate like that. And then I travel and I go, wow, kids don't skate like this anywhere else. So this is definitely the Dogtown guys and the way they've sort of mentored the kids up, and it's very competitive. They're not slackers here. They don't just hang out on a board, they skate. They really skate.
We didn't have cookie cutting homes, I didn't come from the Brady Bunch. But it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean that I'm not willing to help out. You know what I mean? Have good ideas. So when Jesse's out there doing stuff, and he it's from his heart, and the people in the VSA, it's from their heart.
Venice Beach is a breeding ground for innovative new tricks, as well as some of our kids today. They're skating just like adults would, and they're learning three times as fast because of all the knowledge that's getting pumped out through video games, and also just having guys of our time and younger teaching them.
We've got a whole new crop coming up, We've got kids like Kiko and Asher, talking 7 and 8 years old, and they're blowing away what we were doing, back in the 70s.
When I was like 2, my dad tightened the wheels so I wouldn't slid off, so I just stand on it.
You got little kids like Kiko, he's up and coming. You got kids like Asher. There's Jamie Quaintance here, whose dad was an old school Venice local, Now his son is like kind of taking over that, position, and they're out here ripping, They're out here representing kind of a forgotten neighborhood.
Yeah, I know almost everybody who's here. That's like good at skateboarding, pretty much. Even the kids, all the kids look up to me. They all want to, oh, I did this trick, I did that trick, and I'm like, yeah, man, I encourage them as much as I can. I love it. It's just, I feel like a king here. Yeah, maybe a prince.
Like, I've had some 6-year-olds that just rip super, super hard, and they just get it. I don't know what it is and why certain kids just, I guess it's all about the athleticism.
My run is, first I go right there. First I go on that top thing, and then I go round and round, and then I go air on the front side hip. Mostly that's all I know.
It takes a village to raise a child. And so all these kids have been raised in our village, and you'll see them.
Oh, I love skating here. I mean, you're on the beach, you're in paradise.
The skate park right here is pretty hectic. A lot of people get hurt out here, but a lot of people progress.
When I was 11, my brother, he used to skate, and I would sit around the park, but finally my friend Ashley, she told me to get up and skate. So yeah, that's how I started skating, but I loved it.
This skate park really, changed my life around. And I appreciate people at the VSA members, Jesse, Blue, Tonan, all those guys taught me how to skate. I'm really appreciative to them.
Kids of today are so lucky and fortunate to not only have this as their place to really flourish and become some of the best skateboarders in the world, but they also have the legacy of what came before them.
My dad, growing up, was a skater. He skated with Dogtown and Little Shredder. He grew up with Jay Adams and Christian Soy and all that. So, I mean, I've always been involved in the skateboarding world forever. Jesse Martinez is like my uncle, so I just has always been in there. So since I could crawl, I was pushing around on a skateboard. This is my town. Like, I could never do wrong here.
My advice for a young skateboarder who wants to go pro, you might want to find a company that's a little smaller, that has somebody that really cares about who you are as a person.
Don't do it for the fame and fortune, because if that's what you're looking for, it's going to be like water going through your hands.
Get out there. Get out there everywhere you can go. Everywhere. Skate everything. Skate hard.
You know, partly because of my son Julian and my other son Christian, I have a whole different outlook on this park. And the legacy I'm gonna leave behind one day here. I don't want to leave this legacy of ass-kicking pro skateboarder.
To have this being here now for the next generation of kids, it's beyond, a dream come true for me.
So Venice, to me, is right up there with some world-class spots. Now, I mean, right on the beach, and the whole town of Venice is just popping right there. It's gonna be a hot spot. Kids are gonna come from all over the world to ride this park, and it needs to really be, it's gonna make Venice another world-famous spot like it deserves to be. I mean, the roots of skateboarding are right there, Dogtown, there it is.
Money you won't be remembered for, but to be a Dogtown boy and a legendary Dogtown boy, you will be remembered forever. And that's more than money you can ever give me. And I'm just, let's just say I'm more than proud to be called a Dogtown boy.
Big respect, and we owe it all to the OGs, that laid down the foundation. And, all I gotta say is big up and thank you very much.
Wanting to resurrect a place where our children can grow up and have a place where they can become the best skateboarders in the world.
This is Jace, he's 2, and this is Dez, and he's 4. Future Venice Originals right here.
Being able to compete and have like a place that they could call their own and develop their skills, this is really going to give a lot of opportunity to those young kids.
This is our home away from home, and I'm pretty picky, so it's definitely a great place to come to. Trust me on that.
Jesse's always done everything he can for skateboarding, and probably more than anybody else for this Venice skate park. So he does it out of the heart. He's been a skateboarder his whole life, and most people, you'd say like, they do it for free if they didn't get paid, but he is doing it for free and not getting paid. So he's doing it out of his heart. So why don't some of you guys start paying it?
I feel in a way Dogtown will never die. As long as we have the new generation coming up and remembering where you're at, where you're from.